Tony Romo. Report in the New York Post that Tony Romo needed, and this is crazy to me, that Tony Romo needed a work ethic intervention from CBS Sports over his work ethic to call games alongside of Jim Nantz at CBS. Romo, when he started, was a sensation calling games, was not paid that much money as the CBS lead broadcaster alongside of Jim Nantz, and then ended up signing what's reportedly like a 10-year, $175 million contract, the biggest contract at that time in history to call games. More power to Tony Romo. I think he deserves it. In the last year or two, the internet, which initially loved Tony Romo, has fallen out of love with Tony Romo. And there is now a massive amount of criticism raining down on him, reportedly, because he's not spending much time prepping. Now, one aspect of this might be early on when he was calling games, Romo was likely to know and or have played against many of the guys that were on the field during his tenure as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. So he may not have had to do that much prep because he might well have already known a lot of the players that were on the field. But given that the average NFL tenure lasts less than 4 years, I would argue that one of the challenges Romo may be now running into is that he doesn't know the rosters in the NFL as well as he used to. And so prepping to call games requires more time. I mean, this seems logical to me, right? When you prep to play a game in the NFL, you go through a great amount of study, and you're going to be really well informed with all of the talent on the field and their individual attributes. 5 or 6 years after you've been out of the league, much of the league has turned over, and so you have to continue to work hard to familiarize yourself with everybody that is still out there in the league. And so to me, this might merely be a function of Romo not maybe he's still prepping the same way he already has. He just doesn't have as much residual knowledge as he did early on. There's also the possibility Romo gets $175 million. He's got guaranteed money. As long as he shows up and does a pretty decent job, he's locked in $175 million. Maybe he's not driven that much at this point. There are other things he likes more of in his life. I saw where Cowherd said, look, he's a golfer. He's focused on golf. That's his favorite way to spend time. Certainly, he's got a young family. We'll see what ends up happening. I thought Romo was fine, but I think Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt have been so good. And I think certainly the combo of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have done well as the lead team. We all know, Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit are longtime studs for Amazon. And you just start looking around. Collinsworth and Tirico are a really good combo on NBC. I think maybe this is just a function of Romo feeling like he does enough to be really solid at his job and not being driven to be the best. And now there isn't a bad duo, right? Everybody who is calling games at the A-list level in the NFL is now up their game. It used to be ESPN was doing a poor job on their games. They didn't have the same elite level announce team. They go get Joe Aikman and Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. You end up with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, who I thought did a really good job Thursday Night Football for Amazon. You continue to roll up all of that talent, and maybe with the surprising, I think, really good duo of Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt, suddenly Romo and Nantz are not as unique and elevated above the competition as everyone else. In other words, everyone has kind of lifted their game, Collinsworth and Tirico. There's been a lot of movement, but as a result, there's a lot of talent calling games. Nobody's bad, and there's been more of a spotlight on Romo and less praise. I also think this is kind of the natural way these things go. Initially, everybody loves you if you do a good job. And then people decide that they have to change the narrative because the narrative is, oh, he's awesome, oh, he's amazing. And so it starts to spin back the other direction. I think you see this happen a lot in all facets. CNN. CNN's Don Lemon, good piece up about it at Outkick. CNN's Don Lemon was not on the CNN morning show. Remember, Don Lemon effectively got a demotion from primetime in the evenings to joining Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins on the new CNN morning show. And he's gone from being a solo host, a solo act, to being a part of a three-man. And I say three-man, two-woman, one-man. And so I've done three-man radio. I've done two-man radio. I've done solo radio. I have done a lot of ensemble cast television. As you guys well know, regularly a guest on Fox News. I did 4 years of daily television in sports gambling on FS1. So I'm kind of used to doing a lot of television over the time, figuring out exactly how to interplay all of those aspects. And I think that that what's going on here is Don Lemon's just not an ensemble act. And reports are that he flipped out on Caitlin Collins in December after a show because he was upset at the way that she had behaved. That story then got written in the New York Post in great detail. And today, Don Lemon did not show up for work. So CNN's got issues. They had a 9-year low in ratings. This new morning show that CNN tried to put together has not panned out. I think it's fair to say, as they anticipated that show would pan out. And so as you continue to kind of follow this story and see in what direction it is evolving, it is not going well for CNN. And Don Lemon seems to be very unhappy with the overall trajectory of his time at CNN. Finally, finishing it up with a fun story here. I saw this story and I said, of course. But it has now been confirmed, in case you were wondering, ugly people wear masks at much higher rates. That is, the uglier you are, the more you are committed to your COVID mask. And this makes some sense, right? This is like my theory that if you watch the people who are protesting, really protesting anything, how often do you see hot protesters, right? How often have you been like, hey, you know where to find the hottest girls in D.C.? Protesting outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house. If you're a woman, you're like, you know where I can find a total stud? Oh, he's showing up at the protest outside of Amy Coney Barrett's house on Friday night. That's where all the hot guys go. No, not really. By and large, if you protest, you are angry and you are ugly. I think those go hand in hand. There's just not a lot. I've seen a lot of footage. I got to be honest with you. I have not been to a protest, maybe ever. I'm too good looking to ever protest. But in all honesty, I've never seen footage of people protesting and thought, that's a really good looking people. Really good looking group of people. I wasn't sure if that was the Washington Commanders cheerleading team or if that was the people showing up outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house to protest. Really difficult for me to tell the difference. No, protesters tend to be ugly, and so do people who wear masks. The lesson here in general, losers protest. Also, losers do anonymous Twitter handles and protest there too. Oh my goodness. And it's not a surprise. The uglier you are, the more likely you are to be a Fauciite, the more likely you are to run around with your mask on like a pathetic loser, because that, my friend, is what you are. Don't be a pathetic loser. Burn your masks, never wear them again, and mock everyone who does. And also, you're not going to find a hot guy or girl showing up at the local protest because they're ugly too.